In the last lesson, you learned the names of the white keys, and we started on C. Everywhere there's a group of two black keys, immediately to the left of the black keys, it's called C. And that's everywhere there's a group of two keys. And since we know C, that means we can know all the other keys next to it by simply knowing our ABCs. If you can say your ABCs from A to G, that's all the keys are on the piano. The white keys start on A and they end on G, and they just keep repeating over and over. So now that we know C, we can say our ABCs. Let's go down to A, C, B, A, and then count up. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it starts over again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now when it comes to learning the keys on the piano, it's kind of like buy one, get one half off. Since you know the names of the white keys, you then now know halfway the names of the black keys. And there's only 5 of them to learn, because if you notice these 2 black keys, there's a group of 3 black keys, and then another group of 2 black keys. Now these 5 black keys, the names of them, they just repeat over and over. So you'll see this grouping here, another grouping here, another grouping here. Let's look at the first black key right next to C. It's in between the C and the D. Now each black key will have 2 names. And it's going to be based on the chord or the key that you're playing in, depending on which one you call it. So the key in between C and D will be called C sharp or D flat. Now in music, when we say something is sharp, that means it goes up in pitch. When we say something is flat, it goes down in pitch. So listen to C. Now listen to C sharp. It's going up in pitch. That's why we call that a C sharp. Now listen to D. And then listen to D flat. It's going down in pitch, so we call it a D flat. Don't bother yourself too much about which one to call it, flat or sharp. I'll let you know which one to call it when the time comes up. I'll let you know. So let's start with the next one. So now this one is C sharp or D flat. This black key is in between the D and the E. So using the same logic you use for this one, it's either going to be called D sharp or E flat. Move up to the next one, the group of 3. It's in between F and G. So think F sharp or G flat. The next one, in between G and A, is going to be called G sharp or A flat. The last one is in between the white keys A and B. So A sharp or B flat. It's really not that difficult. So 5 keys total, that's all you have to learn, because then it just repeats itself on up the keyboard. Alright, so now that you know all the names of the keys on the piano, let's talk about a couple of terms that you need to know. In music, whenever you go from one key immediately to the note next to it, so from C to C sharp, we call that a half step. If you skip one key, for example, going from C to D, you notice that we're skipping over to C sharp. That's called a whole step. A whole step is just 2 half steps. From C to C sharp is 1 half step. From C sharp to D is another half step. So 2 halves make a whole. And that's anywhere on the keyboard. If you don't skip a key from one note to the next, it's called a half step. If you skip one key from one note to the next, it's called a whole step. So for example, from A to B flat would be a half step. From A to B would be a whole step. From A to C would be 3 half steps, or 1 whole step and 1 half step. From A to B flat, 1 half step. B flat to B, 1 half step. B flat to C. So A to C would be 3 half steps. What about from B to C sharp? Notice you're skipping 1 whole white key. So that would be a whole step. And that's anywhere on the keyboard. I don't think there's any reason for me to spend any more time explaining what a half step and a whole step is, except for to make note of the fact that some people call them semitones and full tones, or semitones and whole tones, just depending on who you are and how you were taught. I was taught to use the terms half step and whole step, so that's what I'm going to learn. That's what I'm going to use. So with half steps in mind and whole steps, let's look more closely at the C chord that I taught you in the first lesson. Made up of C, E, and G. Let's count the half steps between the first and the second note. So between C and E, let's count. From C to C sharp is 1, from C sharp to D is 2, from D to D sharp is 3, from D sharp to E is 4. So there are 4 half steps between the first 2 notes of our major chord. Now let's count the half steps between the E and the G. From E to F is 1, from F to F sharp is 2, from F sharp to G is 3. So in our C chord, between the first 2 notes, there are 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Between the last 2 notes, there are 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. So this is basically an easy way to figure out the major chord in any key. Just count half steps between each note. And I'll show you one example. Let's move up to E flat. So let's start on E flat. And in this particular fingering, whatever note your thumb is on is going to be the name of the chord. So we're in C, our thumb is on C. We've got 4 half steps here, 3 half steps here, C major. So let's do E flat. We'll start on E flat, put our thumb on E flat. Now let's count 4 half steps to find our second note. From E flat to E is 1, from E to F is 2, from F to G flat is 3, from G flat to G would be 4. So our 2 notes in our E flat scale so far, or E flat chord so far, E flat and G. Now let's count 3 half steps from the G. From G to A flat is 1, from A flat to A is 2, from A to B flat is 3. So now we know the third note of an A major chord. E flat to G to B flat. So there's your major chord. It's easy enough. Alright, so on to our song in C. We'll play around a little bit with the right hand. And we're going to move our middle note 1 whole step down or 1 half step up. So instead of playing C, E, G, let's move this E down a whole step to D, but play with your index finger. Now the same way, let's move the E up 1 half step to F, but play that with your ring finger. Now I still want you to count to 4 and move your left hand on the 1 of after every 4 beats. But on the 4 in your right hand, I want you to play a little different chord. So we're going to hit 3 beats of normal C, but on the 4th one, move to your index finger and play the D. So the whole thing will sound like this. Now there's 4 chords in this run. We're doing C, then C over F, C over A, C over F. On the last C over F, I want you to play the other chord with your ring finger. So for the first 3, I want you to, on beat 4, I want you to play with your index finger on the D. On the 4th chord, I want you to play on beat 4 with your ring finger on the F. So it'll sound like this. And just do that over and over and get used to moving your fingers in between chords. The second thing I want you to do is not just play 1 note. Put your thumb on the bass note and then put your pinky an octave below. I want you to play an octave in your left hand while you're playing with your right hand. I want you to get used to stretching your hand out that far and having your fingers to lock in to an octave. Because this method of play is going to focus on having most of the time an octave in your left hand. So play it like this, with an octave in your left hand and doing the finger switch in the right hand. Just do that until you feel comfortable. Wow, that seems like a lot. I'm not sure if I'll be able to stick to my less than 10-minute rule. We'll see what happens. So let's just recap what we learned today. We reviewed the white keys. As long as you know where the middle C is, or where the C is, and as long as you can say your ABCs like you were able to do in kindergarten, you should be able to figure out the name of any white key, knowing the C. We also learned the names of the black keys. Don't forget, there's only 5 black keys that you need to know the names of, because that block of 5 just repeats itself over and over, all the way up the keyboard. We learned the difference between a whole step and a half step. That's very basic music 101 right there, what a whole step and a half step is. So, and we counted our half steps between the notes in a major scale, or a major chord. We took, if you put your thumb on a note, and then you count 4 half steps up, that'd be the second note. And then count 3 half steps up from there, that'll be the third note. Play those 3 notes together, and it's a major chord. And that's, put your thumb anywhere, and then do the half step count, and you'll have a major chord. So I encourage you to watch the video over again if it's kind of coming kind of quick. If you already are experienced and you know all this stuff, and this stuff is just like Sesame Street to you, just hang in there. I have to go through this basic stuff just so we can all have a foundation.